From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, disaster in the heartland.
But I could see that I lost everything. I lost everything.
Devastating flooding, heartbreaking loss.
I lost my dad's Bible. You can't replace that stuff.
As communities work to rebuild.
If I walk away now, that would be the wrong thing. That would be the wrong thing. That would be the wrong thing.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths, and on this Good Friday, we're going to pause and reflect on what's been a month of extreme weather for major portions of the heartland. This is how it started nearly a month ago in mid-March when a massive winter storm made its way across the plains into the western Corn Belt. Eastern Nebraska, South Dakota, buried under a blizzard, drifting snow, too much rain followed by a rapid thaw on frozen ground.
There's some around my corrals that are probably 8 to 12 foot high for what there are, and we just had so much snow before. If you wouldn't have had a lot of snow on the ground, it wouldn't have been that big a deal, but there was just really no place for a lot of this stuff to go.
The water with nowhere to run off topped riverbanks, covered or washed out roads, flooded fields, and brought down bridges. The images from the air were breathtaking. This video from Governor Pete Ricketts' tour. This is Highway 275 near Waterloo. You can see water flowing over the roadways and filling the underpasses. Or this in Valley, Nebraska, the town nearly submerged and covered in water. The outskirts showing farm fields flooded with standing water, snow, and ice. Despite the road and water issues, help started to arrive quickly. From above,
it's a mess.
And below, the flooding in Nebraska is flowing toward history.
They were telling everybody to just grab what you can and get out.
On Thursday last week, one levee broke along the Platte River. Another broke Saturday. Rivers cresting at record levels while hundreds of homes, farm fields, and grain bins flood, lost to the spring thaw.
Naturally, to save $1, we didn't take out any flood insurance. Now we've lost everything.
Nebraska Farm Bureau is already estimating up to $500 million in livestock losses and nearly that much in crop losses due to delayed or canceled spring planting.
I really don't know what we're going to do, but all you can do is pull up your bootstraps and start over, I guess.
They say it's like an island. There's no in and out.
Towns like Fremont, surrounded by water, saw residents being airlifted to safety.
Fremont's landlocked, and they're running out of food, and I think everyone needs to do what they can to help out. And I had an airplane that was sitting in a hangar that had gas in it, so I was just more than happy to help.
The view, an emotional one.
These guys that are pilots, God bless them, they're angels. To go home feels good. I want to go home, kind of get myself together, and then go help people.
And help is pouring in.
I'm from Fremont, so I wanted to help out. My parents are actually stranded here in Omaha, and just want to do anything we could to help out.
As evacuated residents return to their new reality.
I got 3 days worth of clothes, 3 days, because I was expecting to come back tomorrow.
The work toward recovery is just beginning. Nebraska's governor pegging losses and damage in his state at nearly $1.6 billion. Governor Pete Ricketts saying more than 2,000 homes and 341 businesses were damaged or destroyed in the flood. The damage to private homes and businesses has reached $85 million thus far. Farmers alone have experienced an estimated $400 million in cattle losses and $440 million in crop losses.
As you know, this is the most widespread natural disaster we've ever had in our state's history. We are now up to 74 counties and 85 cities who have declared an emergency, and that is well in excess of 75% of our state's counties.
As the waters rose, livestock owners found themselves searching for ways to feed and care for their animals. Even the Nebraska Air National Guard picking up and dropping hay to cattle in places unreachable on the ground. Betsy Gibbon caught up with a hog producer who had to get creative keeping his herd fed while the waters rose.
The water is still high in parts of Nebraska close to the Missouri River. So much so, some producers have to travel by boat to take care of their hogs. Without a second thought, John Tyson starts up the motor. A plan so rational, for an unreasonable amount of water.
You want to try and stay ahead of it, but then again, you know, you can only just do so dang much.
Another trek back and forth across what would normally be gravel road and farm ground.
There's a field road right there. Now it's kind of a little higher spot, so we were just wanting to know when we get past it so I can let the motor back down, or if we're going to get stuck.
As the Missouri River has other plans, expanding beyond its banks.
And we had power down in here until the ice all busted loose, then ran into the power pole and snapped the dang pole off.
The historic flood producing unthinkable problems, creating an island around his hog barn. Thankfully, all on higher ground, the livestock warm and safe.
I got a little generator to run the well. I have a tractor operated generator, but it wouldn't have done any good anyways because it had gone underwater too.
Tyson is hoping the next trip across water will be soon.
When we bring bag feed down, we can only get about 20 bags, 15 bags at a time on the boat.
As he's waiting on a delivery of feed.
They should be here, you know, sometime this morning, hopefully.
Fortunately, 1,000 head are in the barn, only 50 or 60 pounds, which means feed will be light. Selfless trips across the pond for the livestock he raises, all with composure during a time with so much imbalance. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Coming up, the fight against the flooding. How towns work together to try and stop the waters from rising and salvage what remains. Next. The Nebraska Farm Bureau has a relief effort going on to help farmers impacted by the flooding. We've linked you to the information where you can help on our website, agday.com.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
All told, the flooding during March, it was estimated the acreage represents less than 1% of U.S. land used to grow grains. Grow Intelligence says Iowa had the most water, covering more than 474,000 acres. That was followed by Missouri with more than 203,000 acres. Communities are starting the long process of recovery following those devastating floods. That includes Craig, Missouri, and Holt County, north of Kansas City along the Missouri River. Before the water arrived, this community set out to save the town of Craig.
Farmers at their own expense brought excavators in and put a levee up around the town.
Sandbagging, hauling, and stacking, hoping to hold the waters back.
We're working on trying to make sure that the waters don't get into the city.
That's where they have a school there in town, and that's where the real water plant is for this whole area.
But as the water flows south, the levee couldn't hold. First a trickle, then a flood. Now the city streets are passable only by boat as the river becomes an ocean.
So we thought we were okay this time. It always goes out somewhere else, but it didn't this time.
Even places usually out of reach.
It just told everything. Everything's mud and it's just ruined.
Now a sopping wet mess of debris and memories.
I lost my dad's Bible. You can't replace that stuff.
Farmers hoping their spring isn't over.
You know, I still think that there's hopefully an opportunity to do something this year.
But recovery takes time.
There were still areas from 2011 that we were still working on that got covered up with sand, or ditches that weren't quite dug out yet. So we were still feeling the effects of 2011. That was 8 years ago. You know, the first thing to be is try to get out and get the trash out of your fields. There's lots of logs and trash that comes from north that floats out, you don't know, and you gotta go clean that up, and then try to break the ground up to get it to dry out because it's usually pretty swampy out there.
And while some are already thinking about next steps, for others,
we're gonna leave. I can't live here. I can't do this again next year.
The next step may be to a life beyond the levees. And Craig wasn't the only town racing to hold floodwaters back. Tyne Morgan has more from Missouri.
A fierce fight against the Missouri River.
Yes, here where we're at, it's higher than 93.
As residents of Carroll County fought off a Missouri River that hit record levels last week. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, we thought 11 was bad, but this is worse.
While Carroll County was able to fight off the river for now, communities farther upstream weren't so fortunate, seeing flooding that's not typical this time of year.
That's the big kicker right there, that no, never this early. That's why there's so much grain in bins getting spoiled.
McCauley says the floods along the Missouri River are becoming more frequent.
I've seen this 4 times now. I never thought I would see it more than once.
The Corps says it's working to inspect and repair levees damaged by the most recent floods, as the agency's focus continues to protect life and mitigate risks from floods. But for area landowners, change in how the river is managed can't come soon enough.
There's 1,000 acres right over there that's underwater, so them farms will not get any corn planted on them.
As land sits victim to the flood of 2019. Reporting from Carroll County, Missouri, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay.
Still ahead, it's not just fields impacted, but roads, bridges, and train tracks. The long road recovery that lies ahead, coming up.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Just look at all those road closure and restrictions still in place. Several of those roads deemed impassable, and it could be a long time before things are back to normal. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon has an update from Nebraska.
Farmers will still have issues even when the water drops. Many rural roads are closed, and that repair will take time. Down damaged roads and across beat-up bridges, you'll find farmers like Colton Schaefer's men cleaning up. On this particular pivot, an engine completely underwater.
I'm going to get out there, pull the engine out, get the generator off, and take the engine to a local mechanic to get him tearing through it and get all the water out of it and see if we can repair it.
A field he can only ride with a certain set of wheels. Yet there may be even more pressing long-term problems, like how Schaefer's men gets to his fields.
To go a mile across the river, you're going to drive 15 miles to get there.
The same with farmers across the state.
That is the actual road. This is just the ditch of the road. So
like Dan Mensick along the Platte River, off-roading to get to his destination.
We can't get our water trail out of here, our sprayer out of here, semis out of here, and we are going to be so low on the list for a township road to get enough rock to handle heavy equipment.
The Nebraska Department of Transportation telling AgDay roughly 200 miles need major repair, but that does not include every road.
This number only accounts for the state highway system, so unfortunately it does not include the rural roadways, which in some of these counties are severely impacted.
And calculating the damage of all rural roads may be hard to get.
We don't even have that number, and it's the local jurisdiction that's their number, so it's tough to be able to pull that.
Parts of the rail line need repairs too, and that does not include the ethanol plants and grain elevators dealing with flooding damage. Some are only taking contracted grain, as Schaefer's men makes do now with trips to the field. He knows other treks will be more difficult.
We're going to have to haul probably an extra 60 miles round trip to get to the ethanol plant, and we're going down roads that aren't intended for that kind of truck traffic.
An adjustment until there's amended infrastructure. Farmers hope will be soon. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Planting in the flood zone. When could it actually happen? We started our planning tour in Nebraska after the floods. We have an update next.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
The flooding hitting just before planting season, leaving many to wonder when or if they'll even get a chance to put seed in the ground. Betsy Gibbon kicked off this year's I80 Planning tour in Nebraska.
They're cleaning up the mess in Nebraska as farmers hope April treats them better than March.
We're not going to be able to afford any setbacks, so we've used up all our windows for that.
This year is a little different. Farmers along the Platte, Elkhorn, and Missouri rivers, to name a few, all flooded last month. And that may not be the end.
While the Missouri River has flooded, many farmers worry that this will just get worse with all the snow and the water up north moving its way downstream.
Last fall we were fairly wet harvest around here and we didn't get field work done, so we were counting on hopefully a drier pattern this spring to get our fields prepared, for planting.
Should we expect this wet weather pattern to continue in Nebraska?
I'm kind of leaning that way. My 90-day is showing above normal precipitation for all of the Central Plains at this point, as we do have systems coming from west to east.
Farmers near the Elkhorn River are at the mercy of Mother Nature, but are still not ruling out planting corn.
If we have good weather the next 30, 60 days, I think we'll be able to get corn in here. We're going to do our best to get everything planted to get something in the ground this year.
While lower ground is uncertain, farmers hopeful they're still going to be able to plant, especially on higher ground.
The hills around here will be able to move some soil enough to get them planted this spring and hopefully get a close to normal crop.
The same goes for farmers who have drier acres near the Platte River.
85–90% of our ground's in the hills, which is fine, but it'll be the normal rotation. This top field, I bet you we'll be planting April 25th.
Okay, I'll be calling you April 25th.
If the sun comes out and the wind starts blowing, you're going to be saying, I wish it would rain.
It's all determination to get a seed in the ground.
We have times, but we're going to need perfect weather to get this done.
For some farmers and producers, the floodwaters came so quickly they barely had time to save themselves. Coming up, stories of survival from the storm.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
As states like Nebraska continue to clean up from what may be the worst natural disaster in state history, stories are pouring out of the region from farmers and ranchers about what happened to them. Michigan Farm Bureau and Ag Community Relief made a trip to Verdigris, Nebraska to hear for themselves the stories from the storm.
6 a.m. sharp, somebody from the dam called and said you need to evacuate now.
Fifth-generation cattle rancher Clint Pischel lives near the Niobrara River.
I told him, I says, I got cows, I got calves that I know are on that river bottom. And they said, you don't have time, you need to evacuate now and get to high ground.
Newlyweds, he and his wife hunted their belongings in the dark and waited.
And when it came, the wall of ice came with it, it all happened within 30 seconds. I guess my best way to describe it is like an ocean. It had to have been 30 foot deep.
You know what? I can't run very fast anymore, but I'll tell you what, I move faster than normal. That's as fast as it come. I mean, it was on top of us.
Nearby, the Rajitskas were dealing with the same wall of water and ice.
But I could see that I lost everything. I lost everything. Buildings, most of the buildings are gone, my hay.
In a moment, both families losing generations worth of work, their homes and their livelihoods erased by the storm.
Anything that was down there was gone. There was some calves laying on the banks.
The ice piled up against the gate. We couldn't get them out. We couldn't get them out of there. We would have taken a caterpillar to get them out. And so when this second round come, it drowned them.
Kind of just want to lay your head down and just give up for a little bit there,
but the kindness of strangers.
90% of the people that come to help, I've never met them. I don't know them.
Is helping these families weather the storm. Hay, feed, and supplies from people across the country is pouring in, like that from Ag Community Relief out of Michigan, including handwritten cards from kids urging them to be strong and don't give up.
You know, it could have been worse. I know Willard and them, they got hit hard, they lost everything. What I lost is hurts financially big time, but nothing like them. They don't got a house to go home to.
Both families now steadfast in their resolve, if not for themselves, driven by the goodness of neighbors.
I'm not going to waste that energy that these people, time and energy that they've already sacrificed to help me. If I walk away now, that would be the wrong thing. That would be the wrong thing. That would be the wrong thing.
As I mentioned, the Nebraska Farm Bureau has started a relief effort to help farmers impacted by the flooding. We've linked you to the information where you can help right here on our website, agday.com. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and spent part of this Good Friday with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great night.